Hello, and welcome to Three Flavors of Flexible, co-designing a HyFlex model with a focus on faculty and student success. My name is Katrina LaFrancois Hansen. I am the Interim Associate Dean for Instruction, and I am joined today by Elizabeth Fredrickson, the Director for ePathways at Edmonds College. A little bit about Edmonds College. We are located in Washington State, about 10 miles north of Seattle. We serve approximately 1,300 unique students per year. Nearly half are transfer students, and the rest include students in professional technical programs, pre-college, and continuing education. We also offer 5 applied baccalaureate degrees, and we serve a diverse population of students. Relevant to this presentation, many of them work or have caretaker roles, and 80% of them take online or hybrid classes. So in our presentation today, we will give a brief overview of our flexible learning pilot. We will talk about our training and the technology we are using. We will go briefly into some survey results from students and faculty and talk about some of the lessons we have learned over the last 2 years. All right, so for a brief overview of our pilot, our pilot really stemmed from the need for flexible learning or for flexibility from 2020 to 2022 as a result of the pandemic. We started with our faculty and what they were doing. And so we surveyed our faculty to find out what was happening, what they were doing in their classes. From that survey, we brought a cohort of faculty to build the pilot with us. So they helped us out by really contributing with really helping us build the training, providing feedback on it, providing ideas on what they were already doing, what was working, what wasn't working, and making recommendations on the technology. We officially listed classes as flexible in fall of 2022 for the first time. And since then, we have continued to refine our process and train new faculty, as well as offering flexible classes each quarter. A quick glance at the scale of our pilot. We have 56 faculty who have been trained in flexible learning. We have offered at least 168 course sections, and we have 6 classrooms that have been built out with HyFlex technology, and 1 is in progress. So, and that one will be ready for fall quarter. So at that point, we will have 7 classrooms. All right. From our survey, we realized that there were 3 key ways that faculty were offering flexibility to students. And so we decided to build our pilot around these 3 ways. So the first one is what we are calling Flex, which offers 2 options for students. Students can either attend in person or they can complete asynchronous work online through our learning management system, Canvas. The second option is dual delivery, which also offers 2 ways. However, this includes the option to attend class in person or to stream in online through a synchronous streaming system like Zoom. And then the third option that we noticed that faculty were doing was what is kind of more traditionally known as full HyFlex, with the 3 options where students can attend in person, they can stream in synchronously online, or they can complete asynchronous work on their own time. Occasionally, having all 3 versions of this of flexible learning can make things more complicated in terms of our communication and our scheduling. However, it also allows for faculty to choose what works best for them, for their students, and for their programs. We have definitely noticed that not everybody is really ready for that full HyFlex experience. And so the other 2 options can provide kind of an easier stepping stone into offering flexible options for students. Dual delivery has also been one that often works well for faculty who may have some requirements set on them by accrediting systems. For example, our paralegal department, they are able to offer synchronous online classes. However, they are limited in their ability to offer asynchronous options by the ABA. So this is a program where HyFlex would not be an option for them. They could not offer HyFlex. They also could not offer Flex. So, but by offering dual delivery, they are able to meet the specific needs of their program. So really what we've learned here is that this is not one size fits all. And so having the 3 modes allows for faculty to choose what will work best for them, And then once they have chosen a flexible mode, students are able to choose between the options that are available. All right, so from here, we'll move on to talking about our training and our technology. So our training is required for faculty who want to teach an officially listed flexible course or be roomed in a classroom that has the flexible learning technology installed in it. Uh, Early on in the process of our pilot, a couple of us at the college all took an EDUCAUSE training that was hosted by Brian Beatty. And that training really helped to provide the foundations for our current training course. So we pull a lot on that, what we learned from that course, and then we also use Brian Beatty's book as kind of the textbook for our course. So just kind of throwing a little shout out there. Our course is 4 weeks long. It is paid and it is offered quarterly. We focus on pedagogy, course design, and technology, as well as focus on deliverables. We want to make sure that our faculty's time is really well spent. And so a lot of the course is actually having them plan and develop the class that they are going to teach flexibly. Faculty overwhelmingly report feeling supported and prepared after taking our training course. But then we also are always trying to figure out how we can continue to support our faculty. One of the ways that we do this is through an ongoing community of practice, which meets about once a quarter and just allows us an opportunity to share updates, try to receive more feedback from different changes we've made, but also make sure that we're also answering questions and making sure people know that we are there to support them. Moving on to our technology, most of our rooms use OWL technology for the microphone, camera, and speaker system. However, we do have one alternative setup for that classroom. We use a Logitech equipment. And this is really just so that because we want to make sure that we are experimenting with different options that are available, making sure that we are meeting our faculty and our student needs. And so since we had the opportunity to try different systems, we did want to do that. We also have added additional technology to our setup to help meet faculty needs, and I'll talk about a couple of those on the next few slides. The cost per room is about $6,000, and we are still working on refining our setup to limit technology glitches, increase the ease of use, and this faculty and student experience. So this is an image of one of our classrooms. This is actually our alternative classroom setup. So this is showing the Logitech setup. However, the OWL rooms all have the exact same kind of ability to do this. So first thing that we added to the room is a secondary monitor. So this doubles as a digital whiteboard. Having the double monitor also allows for easier management of space rather than having to juggle materials on a single screen. It just kind of helps faculty get a little bit more organized. Based on faculty feedback, our other major revision to the classroom has been adding a whiteboard camera, which shows and enhances what is written on the physical whiteboard to online participants. And then we've also added a Zoomer screen, kind of an online participant screen, so that online participants can be seen by their in-person classmates. So on the right side of the screen here, we've got highlighted what the Logitech Scribe, which enhances what is written on the whiteboard and then displays it to participants who are attending through Zoom. And you can see a little image of what that looks like on that right side of the screen there. When that screen is not in share screen mode, it also is a space where the Zoomers are able to be visible by their classmates to help facilitate more of a community presence. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Elizabeth.
Thank you. So we surveyed 53 faculty and 744 students over the course of 5 quarters, gathering feedback on these areas of their experience with flexible learning. For students, how they participated, their level of engagement, and their level of perceived learning. For faculty, their perceptions of student retention, workload, and their satisfaction with the model and teaching another flexible course. So the following slides will present some of that data. Students reported both their planned and actual participation, so we could compare. Actual participation was fairly evenly distributed between attending in person, attending synchronously online, and completing asynchronous work on their own time. We found that actual participation matched planned participation with not a lot of shifting, which was somewhat surprising to us. When students did shift their participation method, it was toward online asynchronous. Most students reported high levels of engagement across all flexible learning modalities, and students identified the instructor, the activities, and the support they received as contributing factors, demonstrating the importance of instructor commitment and engagement in this model. We saw slightly lower levels of engagement in the flex courses. Those are the ones that allow students to attend in person or complete work asynchronously. Those lower levels of engagement tended to be reported by the asynchronous students. And this points to the need to intentionally design assignments that provide opportunities for those online students to really interact with their in-person classmates and their instructor. Most students reported that their learning met or exceeded expectations. The two things that contributed most to their perceived learning were the flexibility of attendance, in other words, not having to miss class if they couldn't come in person, and the availability of additional resources such as recorded lectures. Students who reported that the learning did not meet their expectations tended to cite a lack of connection with the instructor and classmates or technology issues that made it difficult to engage. Overall, however, students were very satisfied with the technology, even though our classroom setup is fairly simple. The data we have so far from our institutional research office suggests that pass rates in flexible courses are similar to our hybrid and online pass rates, as you can see here. In interpreting the data, we do need to keep in mind that the flexible courses have a lower number of students, which can skew the results. You'll see the total number for all 5 quarters at the top of each column there. As we continue to gather data, we plan to disaggregate it by race to see if there's any significant impact on historically underrepresented students of color. We also want to look at age to see if there's a difference between adult learners and our younger dual enrollment or just out of high school learners. These were some common themes that emerged from the qualitative data. Students appreciated the ability to tailor their learning to their personal needs and spoke of an enhanced sense of control. Having multiple ways to engage really promoted feelings of inclusion, especially when students felt a connection with their instructor and their classmates. For instance, the instructor deliberately reaching out to those remote students to bring them into the conversation. And there were frequent mentions of how this model reduced stress by taking the pressure off of having to attend at a specific time and place with rigid requirements. These are some representative quotes from the student surveys illustrating the themes, and I'll give you just a few minutes here to read through those. And in terms of faculty perceptions, most faculty reported that developing a flexible course was the same or less work than developing a new online course. Having an existing robust online version of the course already made a big difference in perceptions of workload. And the perception of workload decreased in subsequent quarters of teaching. 96% of faculty reported the same or higher retention of students compared to teaching the same course in a non-flexible format. And 90% of faculty said they were interested in continuing to teach flexible classes. So I'll hand it back to Katrina now to talk about some of our lessons learned.
All right, so a couple of just quick mentions of some of the things that we've learned over the last 2 years. One is the importance of involving faculty from the beginning, as this allowed us to build on and support what was already being done, and also to take advantage of the grassroots efforts of faculty sharing among colleagues what was working and what wasn't. Starting small with the technology and building up based on feedback help us to make sure that we were investing in equipment that would actually meet faculty needs and be something that they felt comfortable using. Kind of third lesson learned is involving all areas of the college so that we had the support and buy-in from everyone who has to be involved. This is not a pilot that a small group can do and be successful at. We needed schedulers, advising, marketing, IT, leadership, and services for special populations like international students and veterans. Each group is impacted by what we're trying to do, and bringing them in early on helped us to be more successful. And then finally, intentionally and systematically collecting feedback from both students and faculty has helped us to build support across the campus. Whenever we've been working with any of these above groups, faculty, advisors, IT, or schedules, being able to pull back to our survey data and feedback and connect it to the impact that this is having on students helped us to have more impactful and effective conversations and to build buy-in with these different groups. So that's just a quick overview of some of the lessons that we've learned. And with that, I say thank you for listening to our presentation.
Thank you.